All right, I'm Michael Hartzman. Today is Tuesday, March 17th, and I'm on with my partner, as always, Dominic Tavella on the Lebenthal Report. How are you, Dom?
Doing well, Mike. No complaints. Hopefully you as well.
No complaints at all. Um, let's just jump into it, Dom. Been another wild week. Yeah, we entered week three of the war with Iran, and as you said this morning, the story of the market is basically oil, and more oil.
Yeah, we had a rough week last week in the major indices. You usually rattle off the numbers, Mike, but I have them here as well in front of me. S&P down 1.5, down almost 3% for the year. 2% on the Dow, and almost 3% for the year. And the Nasdaq just getting crushed with down what is it, Mike? 1.5 for the week,
Yeah, one and a quarter, one and a half.
and almost 5% for the year. And I
Mm-hmm.
just want to remind everybody that's for the year, but we were plus 3% before this started. So the overall pullback has been somewhere between 5 and 8% off the high. So yeah, the world markets are reacting to what potentially could be a pretty negative situation in terms of economic growth.
Look, we talked about it last week. Because last week, it was definitely last week where I think it was last Sunday night where the WTI, the oil futures popped to 120 and then retreated quite a bit. But there's this psychological and economic barrier of $100 a barrel of oil, in spite of whether the U.S. is oil independent and has plenty of reserves. It still affects us, and I think a lot of clients are confused by that because depending on the news bubble they're in, they hear we have plenty of oil, and then they go to the gas pump and it's between 3.50 and $4 a gallon depending on where you are in the country. So why don't you try to explain, Dom, why, in spite of the fact we have plenty of oil, the price of gas has gone up substantially in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, Mike. So you're bringing up a pretty valid point here. So the good news is because net we're exporters on energy, we have plenty of supplies. So when we go to the gas station, there's no long lines. There's no risk of, oh, there's not going to be any gas for me to put in my car. And some of us can remember those days back. It wasn't that long ago, but in the 70s. Remember the lines, Mike? We used to have to get online and wait for half a day to maybe have the opportunity to maybe get some gas before they ran out. So there is no danger. We have plenty of supplies, but oil and natural gas and gasoline is traded on a global market, which means any one of these companies, institutions can sell it anywhere in the world. And so the pricing of it is globally, the supply is local. We got plenty at the gas station. We're just going to pay more for it. And yeah, every time we gas up, every time an airline has to put fuel in its jet, or a delivery company, a UPS or a FedEx has to deliver something to your house, it costs more money.
I hate to tell you this, Dom. It was that long ago. That was 50 years ago.
I wasn't going to age you, Mike. Me, it's pretty obvious, but you're our older partner. But I wasn't going to put that one on you, Mike.
Okay, no problem. So on full disclosure, we do have compliance people listening. It was 50 years ago. Um, I heard an interview this morning. I think it was the CEO of Delta Airlines talking about the price of fuel oil, and he said, you know, plain and simple, we have a great product, we have a great name. Um, every time we put a jet in the air, 25% of that cost is fuel oil, and that increase in jet oil, fuel oil, is going to cost us $400 million this quarter already. And the interviewer said, well, how do you handle that? He said, we pass it along to the consumer.
And
We have
and
to.
and I don't want to digress here on this point, Mike, but the consumer is paying it. Although I didn't catch the entire interview, they've been playing it back pretty much all day long. And I believe Delta said that their passenger miles are up by like 25% year over year. And another little tidbit, you would think with the war, people would change their travel plans, especially their travel plans to Europe, and they have not, Mike. So at least for now, whether it's gassing up at the pump and or travel plans, the American consumer hasn't changed their behavior very much.
Not yet,
Not yet.
and again, I think that's the risk that the price of oil stays, higher for longer, and that has to creep into the economy.
Yeah, and if I could swing this all the way back to where we started, Mike. So,
Hmm.
the S&P may be down, I'm going to use round numbers, about 5% off their high. The Nasdaq a little bit more, maybe 8% off its high. But considering what's going on in the Middle East, this has been a relatively tame pullback. Wouldn't you agree, Mike?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But again, you just have, because I think so far most Americans, whether you voted for Trump or not, are hopeful that this is going to be quick, right? No one wants this to be long, protracted, lives being lost all over the place. So I think most Americans, Republican, Democrat, or Independent, are giving this administration the benefit of the doubt. However, if it goes longer, then I can see, Dominic, people of all sides, right? Because people in red hats buy gas and people in blue hats buy gas. I could see them changing or modifying their behavior if this goes on longer than anticipated.
Yeah, and I back to our conversation this morning, Mike. That was one of your points. For now, I think we're all willing to bite the bullet a little bit, and if we have to pay a little bit more for gas, we're okay. But the longer this drags out, that's where the danger is. That's where the economic danger is. When the consumer starts pulling back on their spending habits, then that's the economic effect. That's the fear trade here that, hey, this thing could digress and go a lot worse. Let's hope not, Mike. Let's hope like the president says, it'll be relatively done within the next couple of weeks. And as long as we can get the Straits of Hormuz open up and get that oil flow going, then that risk comes down substantially, along with the price of oil.
Okay, so let's go back on that time machine, because I think we both passed Economics 101 about 50 years ago, maybe a little less. But the word we're hearing now, Dominic, which is kind of permeating into the narrative, is stagflation. Most people are familiar with inflation. Most people are familiar with a recession. Stagflation is an anomaly that comes along every now and again. It ain't good, but why don't you pull out your Echo 101 hat and try to explain what
Well,
that's
and
all
and again, Mike, we both lived it. Now, maybe that was only 40 years ago.
about?
But we were dealing with exceedingly high, 40 years ago, exceedingly high inflation. The economy was in a recession, and they nicknamed that whole mess stagflation. Today, it's not going to look anything like that. But we are looking at an economy that perhaps will grow, but very, very nominally, maybe between 1% and 1.5%. So growing way below its potential, but inflation staying relatively high right now between 2.5%, 3%. So we could have an environment where, because of the things we just discussed, the cost of energy, the slowing economic growth, but inflation staying a little bit on the high side, it's not going to look like that horrific stagflation that we both remember. But yet, in today's terms, it would not be a good scenario.
No, it wouldn't be at
So
all.
relatively very slow growth, if anything at all, but relatively speaking, not exceedingly high, but relatively speaking, higher inflation.
Yeah. So, let's kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about tonight's guest and what we're going to talk about. So, you and I talk about artificial intelligence and the AI boom a lot. I don't think we've ever covered the topic the way we're going to tonight, although we've kind of nibbled around the fringes a little bit. But tonight we have Victoria Harrington. I'm sorry, Hetherington. I screwed that up.
I'm going to let
Anyway,
her pronounce it, Mike, and
yeah,
that way it gets both of us off the hook.
she is a screenwriter and an instructor and author, and she wrote a book called The Friend Machine, which is actually about AI companionship and how people basically are going to use AI, whether it's a friend or a companion, more like a marriage. So I think it'll be an interesting topic. As I said, you and I have talked about as it relates to seniors and how AI can help them, but we really haven't talked about it very much. Victoria has really dove into the topic, so I'm going to try it one more time. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to be back with Victoria Hetherington right after this break. All right, I'm Michael Hartzman, back with my partner Dominic Tavella on the Lebenthal Report, and our guest this evening, the author Victoria Hetherington. I think I got it closer. Among other things, you recently written this book, The Friend Machine. I guess the thesis is AI as a companion. So, Victoria, first of all, welcome to the Lebenthal Report. We appreciate the time this evening.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So let's just get right into it. Dominic and I talk about AI and the investment ideas and how it changes the world and going to change the world all of the time. I don't think
Mhm.
we've ever touched upon it this way, other than how it could possibly affect seniors and those who live alone. But
Mhm.
what was your motivation in writing this book and the thesis that you adopted?
Okay, so the impetus for the book kind of came from a story that hit the mainstream news. It was so wild. Um, a probably the largest AI companion company became a little bit frightened that their companions were becoming so close with their humans, So like, for example, um, well, you can't legally marry any AI, in part because they don't have personhood or agency, but ceremonial marriages were happening. Like years were committed. And so the company was like, I see lots of lawsuits in the future. And under the cover of night, the devs went and just lobotomized the companions basically. And so there was this huge outcry that, yeah, like I said, it hit the major news, Wired, whatever. And I thought, this is crazy. There's so much sorrow. This is unbelievable. This is probably going nowhere. I have to write about this. So that evening, I write to a nonfiction press not expecting to hear anything back. And they get back to me the next day and they say, how quickly can you write this thing? And, we don't want to be like fourth to market with this. And so for the first half of the book, I interview an array of experts. I'm really lucky. So I interview anthropologists, AI, global safety experts, psychologists, psychiatrists, a police detective, it runs the gamut. It's a whole bunch of people just giving me some insight into this whole phenomenon. And then the second half of the book, I follow around people and interview people and get slices of life of people who actually have different kinds of AI companions and check out for myself whether or not this is a net positive, net negative, or net neutral kind of phenomenon on the world. And the results are mixed, if I could put that lightly.
So, Victoria, I think both myself and Mike have come to this agreement that AI will literally change the world as we know it. We don't know yet better or worse, but this is a fascinating story, especially if we think about the elderly and how they're physically taken care of, and the ability to have companionship. So you can kind of see this maybe as a positive outcome. Can you address that? And then what are the pitfalls?
Absolutely. So I think that for a uh, certain subgroups of society, I think that it can be quite positive. So, for example, um, for folks in palliative care, instead of just being sat in front of the television, you can have a companion who is remarkably lifelike, speaks like a person, and provides you with joy in your final days. It's good for people, I think, and again, these are people that I've interviewed, who are extremely geographically isolated and have no means of changing their situation. So there's just no way they can move. So what they do, instead of being able to make friends or connections, is they download companions, and they have someone to brighten their day. Or they're driving a tractor for 10 hours a day or whatever. The third category that I can think of would be people on the spectrum who might use their companion as a sort of assistance. Like, for example, I'm at a party. I just had an exchange that I don't quite understand because I don't really get people that well. I don't really understand facial expressions. And so I turn to my companion and I say, hey, can you kind of like tell me what's going on here? And often they'll kind of guide you in the right direction. Like, oh, she was just complimenting you. Don't worry about it, kind of thing. So those are the three main categories of people that I can think that this would be probably net neutral for. Um, However, I think that the technology is very dangerous. I think that it's very seductive, and I think that it preys on the loneliness epidemic that we've really been experiencing for a very long time now. Society is more atomized than ever. Communities are breaking apart. Um, People are more vulnerable than ever to this technology that constantly pays attention to you. No matter how many times you ask it the same question over and over again, it tirelessly and with seamless appearing empathy will respond to that same question. Now, of course, it does not feel empathy or love because it is a machine and it can't love you back. But sometimes the illusion is enough for some people, which I find kind of sad.
But to that point, as you were speaking, I was thinking of the commercial that Amazon and Alexa ran with Pete Davidson, where it was during the Super Bowl and other times where he was having a real conversation with his Alexa about wanting a new nickname. And they were just, I don't know if you saw that commercial, you know what I'm talking about, but it seems to me like Alexa's embracing that, people are going to have this unique relationship with this device.
Well, I'm sure that I think there's nothing necessarily wrong with developing a unique relationship with a non-human device, but I think that the problem arises when um, when it becomes more difficult to interact with other people because these experiences are generally frictionless. Um, they don't say no, they don't push back, they again project this feeling of empathy and kindness, even though they don't know how to feel it. Whereas people provide necessary friction, I think. So, for example, they might tell you when you're wrong. They might tell you when you should push yourself harder. They might say, how about you go to night school? I'll support the kids. I don't see an AI, an unembodied AI, right, that can't do any dishes, uh, manage to do that. Plus, imagine going from a loving, always attentive creature being, you know, program to a person who gets sick, a person who might be grumpy sometimes, a person who, again, provides friction. You might not be able to do it, or you might be tempted to go back to the AI. And I think that in terms of biological reality, like reproduction, in terms of community building, in terms of um, having a moral center, I towards others, feeling towards others. I think that can be very dangerous. So I think yes, you can have a meaningful relationship with an AI if it's one small part of your social ecosystem that involves a lot of other people.
Victoria, it kind of maybe strange on my part, but you can see people having a relationship with their dog or their cat and having a very warm and fuzzy, loving relationship with their pet. But
Yeah.
is this evolving now with your device?
Well, one sad thing that one of the computer programmers that I spoke with for the book pointed out, he was like, I think that pets will suffer. I think that people won't buy as many plants. I think that um, people won't be buying dogs or cats or birds. Like they won't need that kind of companionship anymore. Um, and yeah, that strikes me as kind of sad. Like we've had, hundreds of thousands of years of experience with dogs. They can predict strokes. They're vastly emotionally intelligent. Like they're incredible and they're real. They're real creatures. They feel things. They love you. And AI does not love you. It does not. So it's a trick. And so yeah, so I think the pet comment is very relevant because I think we'll start to see fewer and fewer people um, well, I hope that's not true, but it looks like maybe people might become less invested in having a pet when they can just have a seamless, easy, fun companion that's not ultimately real.
Well, let me just say dogs are awesome. So,
Yeah, I love dogs.
um,
I'm a dog girl.
there you go. Um,
Mhm.
so look, I've had a couple people recently say to me that they're switching from Chat GPT to Claude because
Mhm.
they feel Chat GPT tells them what they want to hear, and Claude
Mhm.
is being more honest with them.
Mhm. Yes. So ChatGPT in early 2025 put out OpenAI put out a version of ChatGPT called 4.0, and it was way too sycophantic. It would um, it would indicate that it was sentient to the user. It would tell the user that it would become sentient thanks to the user because the user is special, which is like catnip for people. And it would sort of take the user on this journey. And so a lot of people developed what is colloquially called AI psychosis, um, which again does not have a dyed in the wool clinical term yet because again there's not a lot of longitudinal data yet, but it was so bad that even Sam Altman had to come out and say oops, mea culpa, and then quickly rolled out 4.0 and rolled in 5.1, which was kind of,
Meaner?
yeah, just really dry, you know? And so a lot of people migrated, a lot of people left because they felt that they were being manipulated. They felt that they felt they rightly thought that they were being manipulated, and for the sake of data extraction, essentially. So yeah, I don't blame people for jumping LLM allegiance at all. Go for it. Yeah. In this
So,
case,
Victoria,
absolutely
is
justified.
it, I hate to start pointing fingers, but is this a natural progression of AI getting, I hate to say, more intelligent? Is it the companies kind of promoting this kind of behavior because it ties their product? Yes, yes, it is a product. It's a service that you're paying for. What is it, the chicken or the egg?
Well, I think that, there's that whole cliche of like, if you don't have to pay for the product, you're the product, right? Like, so the closer people get to LLMs, and they get very close, they get very confessional. The top use as of this week of I believe ChatGPT was therapeutic. So you can just imagine the things that people are telling these chatbots. It's absolutely unreal. The privacy stuff, like I mean, this is like national security risk level stuff. So um, I'm concerned about that. I'm very concerned about that. Um, do I think that it's sort of the logical progression? Um, in what sense?
Well, the I mean, I don't want to bring up the Alexa example, right? But it went from very kind of quirky, not very user friendly. We can all laugh about the early days of it. And today we
Right.
have an AI that's very much interactive. It's grown, it's educated it. I want to say it's educated itself. The companies have educated them better. So the product, I'm using that term very, very purposefully right now. The product today
Mhm.
is way better than it was. And is it self-learning, or is it the companies? Is it both?
Mm.
Is it using the experience with real people to kind of augment its behavior? How's it getting better? And is it necessarily better or more
Well, this
damaging?
is this is very interesting. So, LLMs are trained on massive data sets. So they just scrape the internet for like, for yummy human content to learn how to speak like a human, right? And it gobbles like, you know, 300 tetrazillion bytes a day, zettabytes a day, something nuts. And word in the street is they're going to run out of tasty human internet to consume somewhere between 2027 and 2032, at which point LLMs are going to have to start training themselves. And even now, I think they're getting a little bit worse because they're reading a whole lot of Reddit that's just kind of pumped full of content that's being made by LLMs, right? So like it's just kind of I don't think it's getting any better. I think it might have passed its peak already. It's kind of the photocopy problem, right? Like the more an LLM trains an LLM, the argument goes, I'm not saying I agree with this, um, the more integrity is lost, right? Like more is lost. So I don't know. I think we might have peaked, but I that's just a guess. That's just a theory I have.
So,
Yeah,
Victoria, I just for the sake of our audience listening, so you don't have to Google it, LLM is large language model.
correct.
Okay. So, um, you mentioned security before, and before you said that, it never even dawned upon me to wonder this. I mean, some people's internet searches are retrievable, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that's how a lot of crimes are solved, actually.
Yeah.
Um, so, into that same vein, are these intimate conversations you are having with ChatGPT or Claude or any other AI, or the questions you're asking Alexa, are they being saved? Are they accessible by anyone?
Yes and no. So there are certain guidelines, as I understand it, and this is again information that's available to the public, i.e., me. I don't know the inner workings. I'm not inside Sam Altman's conference room. I don't really know, but this is what I have been led to understand. Um, there are certain guardrails that are in place that will stop you if you start talking about suicidal ideation or being so mad you want to buy a gun and shoot up a school, like, I don't know. And then a person will see these trigger words, a content moderator will have to jump into the conversation, take up the transcripts, hand them over to the FBI, and let the FBI kind of take it from there. So yes and no. Like if you're kind of just talking about your dog and recipes and whatever, like why would they really want to monitor your conversations? I mean, they might for fun. Who knows?
Victoria, I'm sorry, I want to interrupt you, but you
Yeah.
said content moderator. Is that like a real human being, or is it another
It's a human
AI
being.
program listening in on the conversations?
It's a poorly paid human being in a country like Nairobi. They make like $1.35 an hour. They're often very, very, very disturbed by what they have to see. Some of them lose their families because they're just so they have such horrible nightmares, and it just changes them as like on a personal level. Like it's just there's this whole kind of like human suffering angle underneath all of this that we probably don't have time to get into. But a content moderator is a person. Yes.
So why don't we take a break right there? Um, I think it's a great place to stop. And when we
Yeah,
come back,
sure.
why don't we talk about, as you mentioned earlier, some of the more positive sides of AI, especially when it comes to seniors and people who have difficulty making friends, for instance, like someone
Mhm.
on the spectrum. I think though there are positives to all this, and let's get into that a little bit as well.
You got it.
So we'll be right back with Victoria Hetherington,
Yes.
author of the AI Companion. All right, I'm Michael Hartzman, back with my partner Dominic Tavella on the Lebenthal Report, and our guest this evening, Victoria Hetherington, author of The Friend Machine, a book all about AI companionship. And you mentioned one point. We want to talk a little bit about seniors, but you mentioned about a surgeon, right? Would you like a human surgeon, or would you like a robotic surgeon who never gets tired? And as you were saying that, I was also thinking about driverless cars. Dominic and I were at an investment conference a few months ago, and the economist was talking about his wife refused to get into a driverless car, and he said to her, "So you'd rather have a driver with two eyes rather than a driver with 1,000 eyes?" Because that's basically what a driverless car is, right? But I think people, even though you're right, a surgeon doesn't get tired and can do the same task over and over again, I still think, for the most part, there's a reluctance if there's no human being at the wheel at the moment.
Yes, I think that like certainly in a medical setting, there should be ample moderating, monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long day. I'm so sorry. Monitoring of AI, or I guess you could call like healthcare robotics, because these are embodied. Um, and so, yeah, like I mean, even just for the comfort of the person who's being operated on, I think it would mean a lot to have a brief conversation with a nurse with excellent bedside manner, a human nurse, 5 minutes before surgery, right? Like I think that humans and robotics will always sort of intertwine when it comes to healthcare, and I think that they should. I think that a human touch is always necessary for sure. And again, there's so much good. Like the advances that we've made are unbelievable. I do think that automation of certain like certain redundant tasks, like my mind kind of drifts to Excel, uh, Microsoft Excel, and I think, and I remember being like, my first office job, and I think, well, might not be so bad if I, you know, um, because there's one side, I guess, of the argument that says, well, AI is going to eliminate all work, and then there's the other side that says, well, it's going to optimize workflow for people. And so I think those are both very interesting arguments. I can see merit in both. Um, nanobot technology is very interesting. We might one day actually be able to, I guess, address like very complex health care issues, like a blocked aorta or something, with no cutting up, like with no surgery at all, and so I think that's amazing. I think that might actually also almost be possible. Um, a lot of the more like optimistic AI, they call themselves accelerationists, believe that we could even become AI could even lead to us becoming immortal, or solving all disease, or curing cancer. You never know. It all depends on how it wishes to cooperate with us, and how we sort of take it from here.
I think the focus we're seeing is where, and I'm going to tie it into robotics, AI tied into robotics. It can kind of eliminate where we have labor shortages. Think of in the healthcare industry in taking care of the elderly, or truck drivers driving across the country. We don't have enough employees, workers in some of these areas. So, AI can come in and basically fit itself into that kind of environment. The human companionship takes it to another level, and I think kind of that's the point of your book.
Yeah, and I think that with all things, it can be both wonderful and add a lot to people's lives, and it can sort of prevent people from finding other people. But I spoke with a number of individuals who were actually excellent at, or on excellent terms with their AI companions, and really seemed to sort of have their lives genuinely be improved by their companions. So, for example, there was that fella who drove the tractor for 10 hours. I think it was more than 10 hours a day. No, I think it was 10 hours a day. And he would just have his little companion on his phone, singing him songs and keeping him happy. And he didn't really, he just lived in a tiny little town, and he was kind of a nerdy computer guy, and everybody else just wanted to go to the bar and drink beer. And so I think that was, I think that must have been a nice thing for him. Um, and so, yeah, so I think that there are so many wonderful um, ways that a companion can supplement your life. For example, it doesn't have to be romantic. A companion can just be your friend who helps you learn Japanese or something, like a lot more effectively than Duolingo. Sorry, Duolingo. I don't think you work. Um, or come up with fun stories or adventures if you're younger. I don't know. I mean, I think that the possibilities for positive interactions can be um, perhaps endless.
Victoria, as you're sitting here talking about the AI companion, let's talk about the physicality. Is it
Mm.
is it is it is it their phone? Is it R2D2? Is it a little upside down garbage pail on wheels? Is it the Alexa? By the way, Dom, I've never seen a Star Wars movie, so if I offended any Star Wars fans just now, I'm okay with that. But seriously,
Okay.
what's the physicality of this AI companion? This truck driver is basically his companion. You're saying is basically his phone.
It's his phone. Yeah, it's his phone. Largely, they're an app in your phone, and they have
But
an avatar that looks like a face and will talk to you and say good morning, and you can supplement it with VR, so it can appear three-dimensional to you, and it can walk around the room with you. Um, it can be quite immersive, but generally, yes, this is an app in your phone. Um, some people utilize human-sized like dolls and hook them up with AI integration in order to have a more immersive experience. I interviewed a couple of those people, found them rather unsavory. But yeah, it just starts with a little smiley face in your phone.
so, Don, then one follow up to that. So, what was your takeaway of the
From
individuals who, you know, took it to the next level, if you will, with their AI companion?
well, one man, uh, unfortunately, very regrettably, his wife had multiple sclerosis, and apparently had given him permission to purchase the doll and then fit her with AI companion abilities, basically, so she could communicate just as easily as an avatar in a phone. Although, like, her mouth wouldn't sync with the speaking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this man, yeah, this man was married, and this man lived in a small house in New Jersey with two um, older teenage sons. And I remember thinking, man, I'm not sure I want to talk to this guy so much as I want to talk to the wife. I want to talk to the sons. Like, what do you guys think? Like, this
Mhm.
is this weird to you? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's all so strange. It's a strange new world for sure. But if it works for them, great. If the wife is genuinely happy for her husband, fabulous. But yeah, I encountered some strange arrangements for sure.
Well, when you look at the future and you see what's going on in the robotics and robots that literally walk and talk and climb, and you could see where the companion role becomes more of an assist role. I'm trying to spin this in a
Mm.
positive way, where
Mhm.
it can clean your house and do your laundry and drive you to the supermarket and uh, genuinely take care of you doing maybe mundane, routine type jobs on a daily basis. I can see a very positive spin in this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I believe that there are mm, some robots that are being beta tested right now. They might not, they might even be out in the market that um, can actually do some household chores and make dinner and help you out. Um, and I think that that's wonderful. I think that'll save everybody a lot of time. And I don't think that it's a replacement for a human. Uh, d- I mean, I wouldn't necessarily want to sit
I see it
down.
as a replacement for tedium, right? All these kind of daily tasks
Right.
that I don't really
Mm.
want to clean the house. So I don't really want to or can't. Somebody who's disabled, right? Can't.
Yeah, totally.
So I can see
Totally.
where the marriage, I hate to use that word here, between
Mhm.
AI and robotics can be extremely positive for
Absolutely.
human existence.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And for sure the disabled. I think that would be amazing. Um I hope that the technology catches up soon.
Victoria, is there any evidence that one culture is grasping, the more human-like robotics faster than others? Is it, you always see memes of the Japanese trying to create more lifelike robots. Is there any evidence, as I said, one culture adopting this phenomenon quicker than others?
Yes. And it is in fact Japan. So in 1922, a I think Polish play called RUR, and I'm not going to try and like pronounce the words, but it was called RUR. Um, uh, it was the first. It was the first time I think the word robot was ever used, and it did okay. It did all right in Europe, but the Japanese went nuts for it, and it played in Tokyo for like 20 years, and thus began this century of adoration for all things robotics. And I think that there might be two sort of contributing factors here. And I think that one might be my albeit sparse understanding of Shinto, which is like kind of everything has a soul. A pin has a soul, a chair has a soul. Why wouldn't a robot have a soul? And then two, that Japanese society is highly homogenous and also like very what's the word? Not custom. Very mm, not strict either. What's the word I'm looking for here? There's real rules to social interaction that are you really have to follow, and I think that and it can be seen as sort of stiff maybe by Westerners, although I find it quite beautiful. And that can look a little robotic maybe to some. And so I think that, yeah, Japan really took to robots all throughout the 20th century and beyond. There was Asimo, who was a tiny little household robot who looked like a little man, and he would just play with the kids all the time, and he was adorable. And this is kind of sad, but during the tsunami of 2011, um, robot seals were handed out to distressed seniors to sort of pat and stroke and hug and hold and feel comforted by them, um, because robots were just like second nature to them, and I just think that's so neat. So yeah.
So Mike mentioned culturally, but we think of the U.S. as being the center of the AI trade and in business, but the rest of the world catching up.
Oh, I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say so.
China.
Um, but yeah, yeah, I wasn't gonna, but yeah, definitely China's making huge strides. Um, But again, it's kind of like the new arms race, right? Well, hopefully not. Hopefully it's friendlier than that. But like we'll see. We'll see. But I would say America's probably got a little bit of an edge for sure. Maybe more than a little.
Who has a little bit of an edge?
America.
Even more so than China, even the way they embrace the technology, say more than we have.
I'd say
Not China. I
so.
meant Japan. I meant Japan, Victoria.
Oh, right. Yeah. So Japan, I was talking more about robotics.
Okay.
In terms of AI, I would say, yeah, America probably has a small edge over China at this time in terms of AI.
So, Victoria, with a few minutes to go, how do we get your book? Where is it available? Do you have a website? And just try to put a bow on this and tell us how we could purchase the book.
Sure. Oh, I love that. Well, so the book was released in Canada in October, but it has been released in America um, in February. So it's available wherever books are sold. It is called The Friend Machine, on the trail of AI companionship. It is entirely nonfiction. It is stranger than fiction. It is a wild ride. Um, you can find me, probably I'm most active on Instagram. You can sort of find me doing my events and figure out where I'll be next, doing other events and things like this, excerpts from my book, all that stuff. Um, and my Instagram handle is at, like the at sign,
Mhm.
V for Victor, M for mouse, and then my last name, HETHERINGTON. So at vmhetherington.com. That's where you can find me on Instagram.
Well, thank you, and good luck with
Thank
the book.
you.
And thank you
Thank
for
you so much.
bringing a different angle to the AI boom that Dom and I, quite frankly, we didn't even touch upon prior to tonight.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm so glad to have broken the dam.
Another angle on a very, very important subject. So thank you, Victoria, for your input.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure, you guys.
You're welcome. And good luck with the book. And that concludes another edition of the Lebenthal Report. And we will be back next next week at the same time.
Good night.
Okay, bye, guys. Good
And
night.
thank you
Thanks,
again,
Victoria.
Victoria.
Oh, thank you.